Today we are going to be talking about creative visualization by, and I'm gonna mispronounce the name, Shakti Gawain. Now this is an older book. It comes from my mother-in-law's collection, and so I think it was published somewhere in like the 70s. So it's definitely been out for a good while. That said, this book is pretty much what you would guess it to be. It is all about visualization. The more trendy approach, but is very similar, is The Secret. So if you're familiar with The Secret, it's pretty much the same basic concept. The general idea of this is that with your visualization skills, aka being able to imagine scenarios, you can manifest the life that you want. Now, with that said, the first half of this book I actually genuinely was enjoying. It was going pretty well. Wasn't revolutionary by any means, but the way the author was presenting it was interesting. That all changed when the Fire Nation attacked, known as the healing chapter. From there out, it just kept getting worse. And it never really recaptured my interest and never really redeemed itself from that point forward. Like, I think there was like 2 pages that I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting concept, but the rest of it was just no. So the thing is, when you get into these kinds of books, and the reason that I didn't like it, specifically from that chapter of healing, it is a recipe for toxic positivity and just an overall toxic mindset. In this book, she argues that any illness that you have is your fault. If you get into a bad accident, you get diagnosed with cancer, whatever, no matter what happens to your physical body, it's your fault. You manifested it, whether intentionally or otherwise. And that you can also fix everything by visualization. She doesn't really acknowledge the fact that that isn't completely true, and also doesn't specify that it's like, hey, you know, this just works for certain things, but bigger stuff not so much. No, hardcore. She's like, you can manifest yourself into a grave, basically. And honestly, that's just a big red flag. Anytime I see that in a book, it's an instant no for me, because it can be extremely harmful to other readers. Personally, I know that that's like total bullshit, and it doesn't faze me at all. However, somebody new into the craft or somebody desperately searching for an answer, they're gonna just start blaming themselves when it doesn't work. And what I mean is that she talks about it as in anything. Anything that could ever happen to your body is your fault, and you can also undo it. That isn't true. You cannot, no matter how much visualization you do, regrow a limb. You cannot change your genetic codes when you have genetic diseases. It's there when you're born, and it's there when you die. No matter how much you visualize it, it's still gonna be there. Now, she doesn't really want to specify, but this is where it could come in, that yes, sometimes you can manifest things into your life, specifically in regards to your health. Pretty much everyone by now has come across the studies where it says that certain mental illnesses can cause physical symptoms, especially untreated. For example, if you have anxiety and it goes untreated and it keeps getting worse, you're going to start to develop physical problems with it, lowered immunity, harder time sleeping, which causes its own problems, can also affect the digestive system. Then there is also the actual, like, dying from a broken heart thing. Like, that's a legitimate thing that happens. And some of those you can fix. However, you cannot change genetics, and certain times with certain diseases, it isn't gonna fix it. So anyways, that is my thoughts on this book. Again, the first half was going pretty good. Like, yeah, you can totally visualize and change your mindset and different things like that. But then it's just once we start to get to the really toxic mindsets that it's like, you know what? Even though the beginning was pretty strong, still a no for me. So if you are looking for a book on the topic, I would not recommend this one. I think the last book I read was a lot better. Freeing the Genie Within, that one really tackled the topic really well. This book, not so much. And this one I will have an extended discussion, so for my patrons, make sure to keep an eye out for that. It will be coming later today. Speaking of which, huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.